Good evening. Armenian Assembly of America co-chair Énthonì Բարսամյան will be giving an interview to public TV tonight. Mr. Barsamyan, thank you so much for this opportunity.
Astղիկ, thank you for having me, and we're thinking of all of you in Armenia on April 24th, the day we commemorate the genocide.
108 years ago, 1.5 million Armenians living in the Ottoman Empire were either killed or deported from their homes. The diaspora basically exists because of this reason. You are a member of the Armenian diaspora yourself. What personal memories do you have connected with this day?
Well, certainly my grandparents were in places like Kharpet, Sepastia, and even close to Istanbul. So when they were deported, Armenians, I've always said, Armenians could have easily exited through Europe, but were instead marched through the Syrian desert. So in that regard, we all remember together with those in Armenia today, all of our grandparents, and it galvanizes us as a community around the world. It is the one time in Armenian life that we are all standing together to remember the Armenian genocide. And we've worked so hard here in the United States, as you have in Armenia, for affirmation by the U.S. government. So today, again, the statement of the U.S. president has now recognized the Armenian genocide for the third time.
That's right. As you mentioned, the U.S. President Joe Biden finally recognized the genocide a third time, an event that the Armenian lobby, yourself inclusive, has been working towards unanimously, and you've been putting much effort into this. What's next on your political roadmap? What follows,
right now,
or what should follow recognition?
Actually, it really is now about the security of Armenia. And today in the statement, the president said, let me quote, let us recommit to speak out against hate, standing up for human rights, and preventing atrocities. The only way to prevent future atrocities in Artsakh and in Armenia is to take action. So we are now urging the U.S. government and governments around the world, France, Russia, European governments, to take action. This is no time to back off from that pledge. If we're going to prevent a second genocide, then the U.S. government, Russian government, and the European governments needs to take action today.
Mr. Barsamyan, as of 2023, more than 30 countries, superpowers among them, have recognized the genocide, but there are no political consequences for Turkey, financial compensation, or reparation of any kind. Why?
Because Turkey has not recognized the genocide. It continues to deny to this day. Now will be the time for the world community to come together and press on Turkey to own up to its failure of not recognizing. It is denied for so long that it's part of their historical narrative, and now that is being undone. People in Turkey understand very clearly that there was a genocide, and the government every year loses ground by understanding that they now need to come to grips with their own historical past, which they've denied for so long.
After a long period of collective amnesia, during which the legacy of Armenians was basically wiped out from Turkish history, a flood of books from Turkish intellectuals even has appeared, focusing on the legacy of Armenians in Turkey. Will this effort ultimately have an effect on Turkey's government, or are these just a few drops in an ocean?
No, we believe so. Even as recently as the last few years, Turkish diplomats have quietly said, we understand the world has now recognized the Armenian genocide. We need to bring our society to understanding and to acknowledge the Armenian genocide. So the more there is fact-finding internally in Turkey among young scholars, which is happening, it does help. Obviously, people like Taner Akçam have been very helpful. Hrant Dink have been very, very helpful. And our own Armenian National Institute, having put all the archives of the Armenian Assembly and Armenian National Institute's archives online in different countries. It's in Turkish, it's in Spanish, it's in Arabic. So what's happening is the world is very clearly understanding that what happened in 1915 and what's happening today will lead to a second genocide if not prevented.
We'll still talk about Nagorno-Karabakh more, but I would like to focus on the process of normalization between Armenia and Turkey that is underway. How realistic do you believe is the reopening of international borders and is re-establishing diplomatic ties while Turkey's denialism of genocide continues?
Obviously, the historical fact needs to be dealt with, and we've said that all along. And the Armenian American community and the Armenian Assembly has always said that recognition of the genocide has to be on the forefront with relations with Armenia and Turkey. Now, Turkey needs to take that step. There are a few steps that Turkey needs to take. They're working towards those steps, but I would say that Armenia is on a track to normalizing relations, but both sides have to be courageous, do the right thing, and acknowledge the history that lies in front of them and behind them, including what's happening in Artsakh today.
Armenian aid workers joined the rescue efforts after the earthquake in Turkey helped save an 8-year-old Turkish girl from brambles. The government of Armenia was harshly criticized for doing this. Was this a correct step in your estimation?
Absolutely. Anytime a democratic free country lends aid to another country, human rights, assisting with disaster, that's the right step. There's nothing that we lose by helping our neighbors. At the end of the day, humans are humans, people in need are in need, and we should help one another. But that being said, Turkey should reciprocate by opening good relations with its neighbor Armenia and building a strong security guarantee to never attack Artsakh, never attack Armenia in the future. That's what real neighbors who are good neighbors do for one another.
Less than 20 days are left till the presidential elections in Turkey. According to a recent survey result, the opposition leader Kılıçdaroğlu has the upper hand. Do you believe genocide recognition and/or reparation and/or Armenia-Turkey normalization will be more likely if there is a government shift in Turkey?
I'm going to go back to one of the tenets of the Armenian Assembly. We don't interfere in Armenia's politics. We don't interfere in other countries' elections. That being said, we would always welcome a government that would reevaluate its positions. Certainly, the Armenian genocide needs recognition and affirmation by the Turkish government. Certainly, all the things that are on the table, including human rights, need to be on the table. And we hope that any successive government in Turkey would take those items up and we could live freely. We've always said Turkey and Armenia should be a part of a greater European Union. That being said, in order to do that, both countries need to act like civilized democratic nations. Armenia has taken those steps. We hope that Turkey, moving forward, takes those steps to show non-aggression towards its neighbors.
This is the third time that the Armenian government is trying to normalize relations with Turkey. We remember that the soccer diplomacy as well as the Zurich protocols basically failed. Do you believe this one is going to be more successful this time?
I mean, we're always optimistic. We hope the best for Turkish-Armenian relations. But again, as in the case of Azerbaijan, it's time for people to put their cards on the table and start giving up things that they should not force on its neighbors. Turkey has always made a precondition that the Armenian genocide not be on the table. We believe that the Armenian genocide is a fact of history now. So it's not a Turkish-Armenian issue alone. It's an international issue that we, the Armenian Americans and the Armenian Assembly, will always press for full recognition and eventual compensation for those things that were lost.
Now let's move to present-day Artsakh or Nagorno-Karabakh. Azerbaijan is carrying out a policy against Armenians that reminds of the events in the Ottoman Empire. A day before the genocide commemoration yesterday, a checkpoint was installed on Lachin Key Highway, and the blockade of Artsakh is now total. Adam Schiff said he will introduce a bill in the House of Representatives for the recognition of NK. Will this step, in your estimation, serve to protect the rights of the people in NK? If not, what else can be done?
It is absolutely the step in the right direction. We have been calling, and I recently, again, our organization has called for full sanctions on Azerbaijan. This is the threat of a second genocide. This is a threat of ethnic cleansing. In order to prevent those atrocities, the United States must forcefully take action at this point. So Adam Schiff is very correct. Senator Menendez has been very correct in calling this out, as well as our other members of the Armenian caucus and all members of Congress, to say Azerbaijan is on very thin ice right now, and they're in violation of the international laws as it relates to neighboring countries, as it relates to blockading people of Artsakh. It's time for the U.S. to take action at this point.
The ambassador of the United States to Armenia said today, in answer to the journalist's question, that the United States is not considering any sanctions against Azerbaijan at the moment. Why is that happening, and what can be done so as the U.S. will pass from statements to action?
Good question, Astrid. I think at the end of the day, the U.S. wants to play a mediating role between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and Turkey and Russia. It's a false promise to think that the U.S. without sanctions can play that role. It needs to show much more strength as it deals with Azerbaijan to say that we, a free and powerful country in the world, probably the most powerful country, will now lean on Azerbaijan to stop what it's doing, which is a blockade of a citizenry of Artsakh. This needs to stop. Artsakh Armenians need a voice, and they need their autonomy, because that's the only way they're going to survive in the region. So we're very firm on the fact that the U.S. has to show action, not just words.
Back to genocide recognition and reparation. Does the diaspora know, has it been formulated, what is meant by when you say reparation?
Well, that is a very, the genocide reparations issue is different for many different people. So what it comes down to is the government of Armenia has standing to deal with its neighbor, Turkey. Turkey and Armenia will need to discuss and decide what that means. At the point we are today, opening the border and having relations with a neighbor that Armenia has had very little relations with in the last 30 years or during the years of independence, that's the first step. So we at the Armenian Assembly believe that there are steps to this, but certainly Armenians suffered a great loss at the time of the Armenian genocide, and there needs to be some compensation for those losses, including all the losses of the Armenian churches, all the properties. Those are things that need to be dealt with, and those, I believe, will be dealt with in the future.
Mr. Barsamian, what's your message to the Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh that are essentially facing a threat of genocide 108 years after the genocide itself?
We are with you. We stand with you. You're on our minds every day, and we are talking to your people. We are keeping in contact, even though we can't physically travel to Artsakh. We are with you, and we will continue the fight and understand that your strength is our strength, and we admire you for the effort. And we hope the world community at this point, and we demand the world community at this point, step up to protect the people of Artsakh.
Thank you so much one more time for this opportunity and your time.
Thank you, Astrid.
Armenian Assembly of America co-chair Énthonì Բարսամյան sat down with the public TV tonight.